And let me see here. Go here. Nice. This seems to be going live. Okay, so we're going to start to get people watching. Okay, there we go. And go like that. And I need to share this with you guys. How? It should work like this. All right, here it is. Click on this, and that should work. Let me know if it doesn't. People are already starting to join. All right, oh boy. Here we go, guys. All right, so this is the beginning of my group warm-up as a part of the TOBI, that's the Online Brass Institute. And what we're doing is we're doing a group warm-up as a part of that, but I want to sort of include our YouTube audience as well. Of course, this isn't without a commercial. The idea is, I don't want to make any secret of the fact that I'm trying to get you to join my cult of trombone warming up. I run a seminar online, and you join at my website, tobyhoff.com/TOBI. And it's a really great group. It's growing fast, and there's a lot of interaction. I really want to capitalize on the idea that we're sort of colleagues together trying to get better on the trombone. Oh no, we're running out of battery. That's not good. This is how I start my warm-up every day. And what I wanted to share with you is some of the transcriptions, the projects that I've done. I'm just trying to make the trombone match the human voice. Yeah, let's just jump in here, see how the sound is. You guys let me know what you think of this. right, so this is our first foray into this, and yesterday, as a part of TOBI, we did the private warm-up, and we know the drill from that. The students there, the subscribers, we know that what we're doing is we're trying to start each warm-up being inspired, all right, being inspired by musicians, not just trombone players, but phrase architects that are geniuses in their own right. So with the vocal range in particular to Baroque era, we are dealing with range that is much tighter than the trombone, and volume, of course, that is a much tighter range, right? They can't really sing as loud as us, and yet They are valued as the great phrase architects in the world. So what we can do as trombone players is match the human voice and the phrase artistry that we're hearing that's not really on the page. Now, this is my transcription, but I'll be honest with you. The thing that's a little bit different is not by much. The only thing that we're seeing different than the actual part is, of course, there's no words, but the tessitura, it's Baroque harmony, so it's really down, I think it's down a half step from what the original key is. So this can happen in Baroque tuning, and I don't want you to worry too much about it. What we want to do is to try to glean as much as we can for phrase artistry that we can copy. Okay, we want to be the great thieves as we're trying to improve our phrase architect abilities. So we're going to listen to this again, and we're going to try to write down as many things as we hear happening that aren't actually in the part. Okay, and that includes especially breathing. Okay, we're going to take note of breaths, and we're going to take note of any dynamics or even tempo variations that we can hear. This was much easier yesterday in class using the Bryn Terfel recording, the Ralph Vaughan Williams, the Vagabond, because the music was arguably a bit more simple by comparison to this. There's a lot more notes here, so this is totally advanced music. Let me just take a moment, pause to share this with my friends on the Zoom class. Just a moment. This is going to literally take me about 45 seconds, so just bear with me. I should have had this ready to go, so I appreciate your patience. Go. And now this is obviously so that my friends in the class can start to make their own notes. All right. And there you go. All right, so back to it. If we don't get anything else, the thing that we want to get is breathing. Okay? This is going to codify how much we can do in a short amount of time. When we know when we're breathing, and I absolutely want you to do this for your, like if you're working on the Grandal or the David, the first thing you're going to do is listen to it. But when you're listening to it, you want to firstly take breath dictation. Where's Joe Alessi breathing? Where's Christian Lindberg breathing? Okay, this gives you, first of all, you're hitting the ground running instead of like leaving your breath to chance. But also, you're giving yourself elements to practice, right? Look at them as like, lines in an Arbenz book, right? You can practice in your Grandal or your David in spoonfuls instead of trying to eat the whole sandwich at once. Okay, so I digress here. We want to hit play here. All right, did I miss anything? What do you think? Come on now, whole world is listening here. What do we think? Did I miss anything?
No, I'm just wondering how we're going to get through that long phrase.
Yeah, that's a long one, huh? So I did mark this, like, we're wondering here how we're going to get through this long phrase. Kevin is saying that. I presume that nobody in YouTube land can hear that. So this long phrase here, right? So, what are some strategies that we can use to get through there? Maybe play it a little bit softer. I did indicate that, mezzo piano there. And then, obviously you're going to have to take a really big breath here, right? But come down dynamically, and it might actually be possible. Let me give that a try. Let's see what comes out. Does that sound all right? Okay. Okay, well, so I guess I can do it, right? And I'll be honest with you, I do have larger than normal lungs, okay? But I don't want to say that that's the only reason I'm able to do it. I will say that a lot of making a long phrase is from efficiency, right? You build efficiency because you know the notes and you've been there before. It's you're aware of how much line you have on the check before you run out of room, right? I think a lot of this is building comfort with the repertoire itself. Okay, this is this is kind of one of the cruxes. I think if you start to take breath dictation, particularly what I've noticed about the way that Joe Alessi plays, is there's some really long phrases, and I don't want to say like that it's right or wrong, but it's something to try. What you'll find, at least what I found, is like when I contrast the Grandal, for example, between Christian Lindberg and Joe Alessi, I noticed that Christian Lindberg is taking a lot more breaths than Joe Alessi does. And again, this is not one's right and one's wrong. It's just a way to do things. These are suggestions, and your job is not to like take the right breaths. Your job is to be a convincing phrase architect. Okay, a convincing phrase architect. A lot of times people will think that the goal is to make a really, really long phrase. And while that can be impressive, people notice when you miss notes a lot more than if you made a long phrase. Okay, so we need to be pragmatic about that. And if you need to grab a sniff or even leave a note out in some of this Bach, you can maybe argue that that would be more agreeable than playing with an anemic breath support, right? An anemic sound, I should say. Yeah, that's a long phrase to make it through. I'm glad that you brought that up, Kevin. But what else do we hear? What else do we hear on that besides the long phrase? Yeah, the crowd's going wild here. Go ahead, Anthony. Hold on, I got to put this on. Try that again. That's what I was going to say. So Anthony pointing out the fact that these held notes don't just sit there. This is really important. And actually, I feel like this is one of the fundamental things that we actually need to learn when we're listening to vocal music in particular. Notes don't typically just sit there. And yet, when we're doing our long tones, for example, that's what we get inclined to do. We build a habit of playing this sort of like vapid, generic, boring sound. Not to say that that isn't somewhat valuable. You do need to be able to make a nice solid brick of sound to start with, but that rarely happens in music. Most of the time when we have like a long note, it's doing something. It's either, dying away or building to something, and you're not always able to do a crescendo to make that happen. So it's interesting to listen to this person that's making really great phrase artistry, what they're doing with their long notes. I mean, Anthony, what do you think that they're doing? You said blossoming.
Yeah, a lot of times what they'll do is back off whatever the previous note was and grow into the help note and even kind of
Yeah. Yeah, so they'll back off and maybe grow with a bit of vibrato. One thing that I want you to pay attention to is the notion of a vocal sound as they do that. We're talking about things like spin in the sound, right, or growing, not really crescendoing. A lot of times what you'll hear in brass players is they'll push into a sound, right? And I want to use this as a moment to sort of like inform our idea of how to grow a sound that isn't a push. Like, think about if you were singing, you were like, ah, right? You know, like a lot of times we brass players will do that, and that's sort of like building intensity and tension at the same time. So what you have to do is figure out a way to build the ring in your own sound without turning it into a push. That's sort of like athletic physicality that will oftentimes come with a crescendo, to try to let that go. We can use vocal music to sort of inform our own idea of sound as we practice our long tones or even our hairpins, right? Our Schlossberg hairpins, which are so helpful. Let's just give this much a listen one more time. I realize that some of this might be tedious, but we have a lot to grow from as trombone players to sort of elevate our own craft. Right? I think that a lot of the vocal technique is lost on trombone players that shouldn't be. We should be making a more vocal tone quality all the way through, but that's another conversation. Let me bring this up again. Here we are. Back it up. I should show you who this is, just so you can make note of it. There we are. If you want to make note of who it is that's singing it, I will probably, if I tried to say that name out loud, it would be laughably incorrect, I'm sure. And then this is the orchestra.
Ein starker Glanz von 100 Sonnen, der unseren Tag zur Mitternacht und unsere Sonne finster macht, hat dein verklärtes
want to leave that for you all to listen to on your own time. But let's see here. I think that it's important to be able to, number one, I got to save my battery because we've got a fair amount to get through here. So I'm going to turn off my iPad for a moment and get to some of your questions before we launch into some Schlossberg routines that sort of like that have already been informed well enough from this beautiful vocal recording that we're listening to. And I go over here, and there's a lot of comments to get through. Let's see what I can get to here, like that. All right. First of all, to my Toby class, tell me what our takeaway from this is. Do you have any questions? Hit it. Right. All right. So Stephen Wimple is asking, what's the process of finding a piece that I like, and then, of course, writing it out. Is that about what your question is, Stephen? Okay. So, a couple of things on that. I believe that we need to expand our perception of good musicianship to be beyond trombone players. I think that it's important to, at first, especially to listen to the titans in our career field, the people that you find particularly exciting. I mean, I'm sure that there's people that you listen to on the trombone that your reaction is, whoa, all right? So I think that being a trombone player, we oftentimes don't give that enough value, right? That inspiration, that wow factor is really important. It's one of the things that keeps us going. I think that frequently we trombone players think that the trombone playing is work, practice is work, and we're not doing work unless we're miserable, right? And unless we're just like really sad and angry and upset that we're not better. So that's the first thing. Like, I think it's important to stay connected to the wow. And you start by listening to other trombone players, listen to recordings, but then look at it like a puzzle, right? Stay inspired and curious, right? See, I'm sure you're like me in that, like, at first you're like, wow, and then you're just like, how are you doing that? How are you doing that, right? It can't be all magic, right? I'm sure there's some of it that we don't really understand, but you have to start somewhere. So look, rather than just being like, wow, that's the Grand Canyon, ask the question, how did it get there? Right? How did you get to that point? There had to be a way that you got there. And so, at first you think, well, I'm going to go get a lesson, right? But then there's a lot that, like in the lesson, you start to realize that some of it's talking, but the thing that you benefit the most from is when they play for you. That's one of the reasons, if you're my student at BU or NEC, I try really hard to just do a lot of playing in the lesson, because I'm trying to show you how I do it. I feel like me telling you how to do it isn't going to be as valuable as just showing you. And allow your curious mind to try to figure that out. And you start to think, I think it is maybe the way that they're breathing. Maybe it has to do with how they're buzzing. How did they get to where they are now? It's a problem that you, like, maybe a problem is the wrong way to put it. It's a puzzle that you try to figure out. So you can take that and look at a larger perspective. You know, me is the way that I like to teach is, we got the trees, and you look at it one by one, and you start to understand your surroundings. You start to be able to navigate where you are. But every now and again, you want that 10,000 foot view. Look at the forest for the trees, and you start to realize that trombone players in the wide scope of musicians are not always regarded as the greatest musicians in the world. And that's. Maybe it could be, you could look at that as our swan song, but maybe you could take more responsibility for the fact that we trombone players are oftentimes informing our own musicianship by listening to other trombone players. Perhaps that isn't the place that we end that story. We have to look beyond trombone players to the greatest musicians on earth and see how much we can glean in the same way, right? There's really fantastic oboe players, there's amazing cello players, and we can use, not all, but a lot of their musical ideas to help us in our own journey to be better musicians. Aldous Schlossberg's, Arben's books, I love the LaFosse book, or Rochu's, they're tools to help you to be a better musician. And oftentimes we trombone players will focus on technique as if that's the most important thing. Not to say that it isn't, but technique is a tool to be a better musician. So you can use all this, all these mountains, these oceans of technique, right? To help you to strive towards a higher artistic goal. And my suggestion is that the people that get paid the most, the musicians that get paid the most, the brilliant phrase architects, are typically vocalists. And so how much of that can we use to help us on our artistic journey? So that's why I like to start every practice session being inspired. I want to listen to music that makes me say, wow. All right? Now, to your question, and I'm starting to embrace the fact that all of my teaching seems to be a simple point said long. Simple point said long. So just, you ask a question, buckle up, okay? How I do my own practice, how I find songs is I start looking for tenor solo albums, or like, because I'm playing, let's say I'm playing Tuba Mirum, for example, and that is in the baritone or tenor range, and so I'll just start listening to Mozart baritone arias, and I wait till I find something that I really like. Okay, that's how I ended up at Bryn Terfel or Thomas Quasthoff, right? Dietrich Fischer-Dieskau. And all I'm doing is saying, Roshu had a great idea, and that was to say we should be singing with the trombone. And he gave us all these vocalises that allow us to work on our legato, our phrase architecture, right? Just saying, hey, why don't you let's make things simple. Just sing with the trombone. But in this day and age, we can take it a step further and say we should copy vocalists, which is arguably what Roshu was trying to get us to do in a time when we didn't have great music on demand like we do now. So what we can do is say, let's not stop at these Bordoni etudes. What if we just said we're going to play Bach? And that's how you end up trying to find a really great Bach recording and then finding the music on IMSLP, copying it down. Either like I copied the IMSLP music for this Bach into Finale really quick one day, just because I got sick of trying to read in G when it was being sung in G flat, and also it was in treble clef, and it was I felt like I was too distracted from that process. And so it is simple enough to just hunt and peck and just put it in. It'd probably take you guys 30 minutes. It took me 3 hours because I'm just not as good at computers and Finale as you are probably. But that's how I came to this. And I'll tell you that I probably have 15 or 20 songs transcribed, but I have more like 200 in a queue in my 4-score that I'm just rotating through. And a lot of times I'm just reading from scores, like vocal scores and whatnot. Yeah? Okay. Let's see about these YouTube comments. Oh, there's a lot. Okay, let's go. This is not easy. Okay, here we go. Could I make a songs playlist public? Obviously, we'll need to do our own exploration, but seeing what you listen to should be a great place to start. Andrew Bianchi. That's a really great comment. And I'm going to make these things public if you show up and watch my warm-up every Sunday. How about that? We'll go through them one at a time. But as far as just giving all of this research away, I think I'm okay with having you tune in. I'll give you 2 or 3 at a time, but you should be doing your own research, as you suggested here. Obviously, you should be looking up on your own. I basically gave you the whole process. Find a composer, start looking up leader, songs, and you just my process is to be all right, Grand Theft Auto. I'll be playing Grand Theft Auto, but with the sound off, and I'll listen to Bach tenor arias until I find one I really like. Hit pause, go over what is that BWV number, and then I look it up on IMSLP, and there I go. This is absolutely something you should do, and you should explore it as much as possible. Build your own process with this rather than being spoon-fed success. All right, you're going to learn and value that information more if you do it yourself. I wish that there was a more gentle answer than that. All right, I cannot.
Toby, can I interject for a second?
Certainly. Go ahead.
I don't know if
Mm.
that comes with piano part for real pianists to play, in addition to a really high quality CD of the accompaniment.
Mm.
Just terrific.
Eric Carlson put out a Brahms Lieder collection of 16 songs that also comes with a piano accompaniment. Yeah, yeah. So this is the thing is these things are out there and they do exist, and the issue is not, can I have songs that are already transcribed for trombone. My suggestion is that there are the Rochu, there's obviously Eric Carlson put these things out, and there's more. People have put out Ravel songs. Yes, go out, find them. They exist. That's really not what I'm suggesting. The value is to invest in your own curiosity. That your quest to be a better musician, you're going to value it more if you go after it yourself. I will absolutely, 2 or 3 at a time, give you these transcriptions. And truth be told, I am in the process, literally, of putting a collection of my own songs out there, and it's not a small amount, and it's not a small task. In fact, I have help from a couple of arrangers. So my stuff is coming, and essentially to answer the question from YouTube space, I'm building a book, and I don't want to give it away before it's done. But these things, I don't believe that it's an extraordinary thing because, number one, it already exists, and the process, I'm telling you, is so easy. You should do it yourself, is what I'm suggesting. You're going to value it more. Yeah. Before we launch into any Schlossberg, are there any other questions from the YouTube space? Just thumbs up. Makes sense. Good stuff. I really do appreciate you guys tuning in on YouTube. Thank you so much for this. I realize that it's tedious because I am simultaneously running a Zoom class with about 10 people and making it live on YouTube. So it's like I'm in the center of 2 separate conversations, and I do appreciate you guys tuning in and listening to all that I have to say. Yeah. Nice. Anthony, good. Have you done that a lot, Anthony? Oh, you did? Okay. Awesome. Yeah. It is, when you look at it, it's just like maybe you feel like it's criminal how easy it is, but perhaps it should be a little frustrating that you haven't already done it. Like there's just so much to learn and glean from this process. And I think that so often we trombone players, we become lazy. We have access to really great pedagogues in this space. We have, I can't tell you the times that I've reached out to the titans in our career field when I was a student and how eager and able they were to help me. We just kind of get used to being lazy students. Lazy students that you're just like, why would I try to look anything up when I could just be spoon-fed success? Because that's literally the world that we live in. And this laziness is easily cured. Stay curious, all right? The answers are out there. Just Google is your friend. IMSLP is your friend. Spotify is your friend. All right. Let me have a sip of coffee here. All right. So I've been thinking about this, and unless anybody has any strong opinions about what the class, and this is for my my Toby subscribers here, I was thinking about the class for next week, and I'd really like to address slide technique. Okay, a lot of times we are we're faced with a legato phrase, like in our Bordoni, right? And I'm thinking about excerpts that could coincide with that, like Tuba Miram or Russian Easter, Brahms 4. We're faced, or Cézanne 3, that's another great one. If we're talking about bass trombone and particular solos, the Bozza, New Orleans, right? There's matters of legato slide technique that are required to navigate this, but it is surprising how ineffective we trombone players are with solving this. And I have several ideas about this, really strong opinions about it, because as I said, being the the chair for the trombones at TMC, and then, of course, listening to NEC auditions and Boston University auditions. Every year, I get to watch about 200 to 300 trombone players play legato, and a lot of them seem to struggle with this. This is something very easily practiced, and it's what's frustrating about it is it's not like high register, right? You say, all right, we got to work on your high register, your endurance, and this is something that you just have to be patient with, and a lot of times your body won't do what you want it to. I want to talk next week about slide technique because this is something that is, it's only fixed with your attention to the matter, and you're not dealing with physical limitations like you might with high register development or endurance. And so we're going to spend quite a bit of time trying to figure out different exercises to practice, which I will have a PDF for you to go over, and how you would apply it both to our standard solo repertoire like David and Grandal, as well as Rochu's that you, I'm sure, have memorized. So that's likely, unless somebody gives me a better suggestion, what we're going to be discussing next week in the Toby Masterclass. And that for our YouTube friends, I hope that you decide to join the group before that occurs. Again, you can, it's shameless plug, you're going to have to bear with me because that's why we're live on YouTube. TobyF.com/TOBI. I hope that you join because that's where the real party is. So all that said, let's launch into some Schlossbergs, okay? We just were hopefully inspired by our fantastic vocal friend, and we're going to apply that immediately into our Schlossberg routines. Let me just pull this up here. All right. Let us do number 3. Now, the whole point of this is that you will join me. I want you to, let's do this. There we go. Number 3 is the one in 8/4. Let me see here if I can bring that down. There we go. I want you to play along with me. And yeah, sound should be set. I want to know if there's problems with me playing, if I'm spiking the levels, you just let me know. But yeah, I had to switch out my Royer from my Neumann microphones. All right. You can all hear that all right? I love it. Everybody in Toby land has got their horns ready to play. Okay, nice and easy. Remember, not pushed. Very similar to the sound that we just heard on that Baroque recording. All right. I'll give you a count off and then we breathe on the last quarter. What we're listening to are quarters, and we're going to play, again, let's play number 3. Sorry, I'm freaking out about the sound here. There we go. Okay, we're ready to go. Here we go. Let's rest there for just a moment. I want to remind you all that if you feel like you are pushing, it'd be a good idea to grab your rim. I'm using a cutaway today. This can be a really helpful way to identify extra tension in your sound. Okay? If you have that extra tension in your sound, you can identify it here really easy. If you get that graininess in your sound, or if you're getting, let me just help you to see what you're looking at here. If you're playing your Schlossberg and you stop and you buzz the rim and you get this sound, I mean, what would you do if you were singing like that? You'd say, hey, you need to relax your throat. All right, so treat your lips like vocal cords. Relax your lips. Adjust the rise of your tongue. Maybe lower would give you a better sound. Right? What we're looking for is ease, okay? Good breath support, not force, right? A good lip structure, but not over-structured, right? That should give you a place where you get a nice, clean, clear buzz. Something about like that, okay? Let's keep going, but I want to give you my tuner on the stand there. So if we can, I got this. Boom, boom, boom. There we go. So let's start with the second line there. And I'm going to put my tuner on the stand. So I'm going to assume that you can memorize this. We're just going to go down to the B natural, and we'll just keep on going down to the E. Okay, down the B flat partial, down to the E. Okay, I'm going to put my tuner on the stand. Let's see if I can hold myself accountable to good pitch. Let's see here. I'm going to go to tuner here. And there. There we go. All right, this is going to get intense. I'm tuning to A442, so as you know, if that's not where you want to be, probably you're at the wrong class. Here we go. Holy cow, that's hard. Now, I invite you to try this as well. This is the Tunable app. I use this on my iPad. Sometimes I'll use it on my phone. But it basically gives you a history of your pitch as you go along. And if you keep it inside of that middle band, then you get the edges to expand. It kind of turns tuning into a little game. But frequently, I can hear or essentially see on the line instability in my embouchure, or if my air is not being efficient. All right, I really recommend this app, Tunable. Put it on the iPad. It's really helpful. Let's keep going down into the B flat partial. Bass trombone friends, maybe this is a good opportunity to take it down an octave. All right, Patrick, Alan, I'm looking at you. All right, make sure that you keep your corners stable. Okay, don't let your lips puff out. Right. Get your corner stable so that we get that clear attack and even tone all the way through there. All right? Here we go. Here we God, this is humbling. I gotta do that again. Holy cow, I can't believe I did that live for you all. You see how challenging that can be? I really want to like kind of dispel the mystique of being a professional trombone player. I always have things to work on, and what I'm typically trying to find are ways to challenge myself even further from what I've already been doing. This app in particular can really be a game changer for you. And you know, if you're able to do it as well or better than me, hats off. All right, that indicates not only like a good breath control, but of course embouchure control. This is where we make our bread and butter in the orchestra, being able to play with reliable pitch, right? The challenge after this, of course, after keeping a straight tone, is to be able to do this on hairpins. Keep the pitch inside the band for our hairpins, all right? Crescendo and diminuendo. That's typically where we see instability in the embouchure make the pitch go up and down. That's typically where you, like, not just for trombones, you'll hear other instruments as well struggle with keeping the pitch solid through a dynamic shift. All right, really good thing to use in your practice is this tunable app. Do we have any questions and or requests for the next thing? I'm thinking that we're going to launch into articulation or probably lip slurs first. Oh no, I'm sorry. Oh, okay, Alex. Alex Manley's like, okay, fine. You know what? Here we go. There we go. How's that? No bolo tie for me. All right. And do we have any requests for the next lip slur? Stephen, I'm looking at you. Yeah, we could do, how about this? Let me just launch into something fairly advanced. The wicked slur. I want to give you a trick to this, okay? This is something I want to give you a gift for showing up. It's a trick, okay? The lip slur that we all know and love. Let me just throw this up on the screen here. Just a moment. I'll have to warm up. Here we go. This lip slur. In fact, let me just do it this way. Probably easier to see. This lip slur that a lot of people struggle with, and frankly, I'll be honest with you, like some days I struggle with it. The trick to this one is figuring out how to play a pedal B flat with a high B flat set. Okay, so this is what I want you to use as a practice tool moving forward. Identify the money note of any phrase. That's one of the reasons that we use our breath dictation. Inside of each breath is a money note, and we set for the money note. So the trick to this exercise is to play the high B flat and the low B flat without shifting. Okay, and that is where the mouthpiece goes when you do the lip slur. Okay, so the way you would practice this is well, let me just show you. Make sure the sound is good here. Okay. So what I'm doing there is I'm trying to get the high B flat and the pedal B flat to happen with one embouchure, right? And now for you, it might be somewhat soft, and that's okay. You just got to start somewhere. See the trick? Do you see the trick that I'm talking about? It's pretty simple. Once you understand it, you can actually apply it to other things as well. Another one that I really like is, oh, not that one. I guess I don't have it here. There's this one. Let me just exit this view here. In L'Enfant, there's that lick that goes from a pedal B flat to a D. I realize that now I've got to put my money where my mouth is. This might blow up in my face. A lot of trombone players choke on this one. And so what you want to do is some of this stuff like Bolero or L'Enfant, or in this case, the other Ravel is this Daphnis and Chloe lick. Just add it to your noodle repertoire. Like there's things that you do like when you noodle around and you don't ever miss them. Why? Because you're always just kind of having fun and you get a lot of repetition of this, right? So what you want to do is just add this to your noodle repertoire. And you would add it just playing the two notes by themselves as I just did. Now for you, maybe you can't play that high D. Okay, that's fine. Play it with a high B flat instead. You'll get there. Play it with an F. If that's as high as you can go, you'll get there. It's okay. What you're trying to do is just add notes to the range that you can play. Now, frequently what we do as trombone players, and this is just a little hint to the culture of what we do, is we typically set our embouchure for the first note after a breath. The trick, as all my Toby subscribers know, because I've become like a broken record with this, is identify the money note in every phrase, and that's the set that you use. For example, if you wanted to play Schumann 3 in one breath, right? You would play the E flat by itself, and that's the embouchure, that's the mouthpiece set that you would begin the excerpt with. No breath, all the way up to the E flat. You start on that B flat, and you just ascend. The closer you get to the E flat, the more relaxed and comfortable you are. Most of the time, people try to figure out how to play a high D in Zarathustra with their low A set, and it's backwards, right? People care a lot less if you get that low A than if you get the high D. So it'd be better for your practice to try to figure out how to play a low A with a high D set than the other way around, okay? And in the same way, we can do that with Schumann 3. There's another way to do it. It'd be, and I've mentioned this many times before, Mahler 3. People care a lot about that low A. So if you can figure out how to play a middle A, which is the first note of the excerpt, with the low A set, when you arrive at that low A, you can arrive with that bass trombone power that we're all hoping you get for a tenor trombone excerpt. My iPad just died. So this might be, and in fact we've been going for about an hour, this might be another opportunity for questions. In fact, I might be able to squeeze a little bit of juice out of it if I plug it into the turbocharger. But I'm thinking this might be a good stopping place if we're all comfortable with that. From my subscribers, do you have anything to say? Go for it, Stephen.
or is
Right.
there some form of progression past the long tones anymore?
So that's a tricky question. I'm going to repeat to you just for our YouTube audience and also to make sure I understand you correctly. You pointed out the simplicity of the Schlossberg that I was doing, and then I kind of launched into a very challenging slur. That's really, you're right. That was unfair, and that is not representative of what I would do in a warm up. I would obviously work up to that, right? But the question that you're asking is like, at what point do you launch into speed over perhaps elegance? Is that maybe what you're suggesting? Yeah. So like, I think with lip slurs in particular, there's two agendas that you can have, and it's important to decide what you're practicing before you put the horn on your lips, right? When you're practicing your lip slurs, especially those Schlossbergs at the beginning, it's just 1 and 2 note slurs, right? B flat to F or F to D, right? And back to D. These things have a purpose, and that is, can you make the slur smooth and elegant, right? And then there's obviously more agile slurs, which can be really helpful for like not just slurs, but think about your more agile phrases that you see in Verdi, for example, or Berlioz, right? And you want to play with even breath support all the way through, but an agility with your face. What I typically do I practice my slurs very slowly up to a point. Like I'll get 3 or 4, just trying to get that sort of like lip gliss. Like I'm only accomplishing it with slow air and easy embouchure set, right? But then it gets to be more and more precise. The faster that I go, the more complicated things begin to become. And by what I've noticed is that I actually get a lot more accomplished practicing my slurs slowly, right? I want to make elegant slurs a lot more than I want that agility. That agility seems to come very naturally if I can make my slurs nice and slow and elegant. So, but that's not to say that I don't practice my quick lip slurs. I would take it even further to say this, and this is something, I'll give you a secret. All right, and this is, because I know what you can do, Stephen. Stephen Wimple is somebody that I admire very much. I'll tell that to the world insofar as his agility, particularly his articulation and technique is not matched by many, I'll be honest with you. What you would do if you're applying that agile slur technique is to take something like the De Tu, which, I'm a fan of you, but like take that to Bluebells, right? Or maybe the Creston, and turn the whole sort of articulated event into a lip slur in and of itself. Okay, so we're talking about like, if you look at a warm-up routine that's like you're on second position and you do a lip slur. Maybe you're adjusting for the F partial, the B flat partial, right? Of course, yes. But what if we said, let's apply that lip slurs technique to the last variation of Bluebells of Scotland, right? We want to have that precise lip slur technique with absolute breath support, right? As you practice this, and then all you would do later on is add the tongue in there, the double tonguing to the last variation, or perhaps even the second variation. Yes, the one that's in duple, not the triple one. Turn it into a lip slur. A lot of people don't have this ability, but we're doing the same thing. We're just moving the slide. When you are practicing your lip slurs, you're trying to synchronize the lip position and the airspeed in these micro moments, right? So all we would be doing is adding the slide technique on top of that. We want our slide, our air, and our embouchure all to be synchronized together. Okay, so I'm saying, yeah, absolutely, practice your fast lip slurs, but don't stop there. Take it a step further to include slide technique as well, and you can do it on, let's say the David. How often have you practiced the Grandal with no tongue, just to make sure that your lips and your air and your embouchure are all rhythmically synchronized? A lot of people don't do this, and this is part of the problem with their slide technique, right? Their air isn't synchronized with their slide, and so that's why we get a really crappy legato. Okay, even on the slow stuff, let alone the fast stuff. That was a really good question. It kind of opened the door for me to talk about something really important to me. I've gotten a lot done without the tongue. Let me check the YouTube space to see if there's any questions there. Oh, some weird comments there. Good God. Okay. Wow. All right. Well, not much useful in the YouTube space to answer that I'm seeing. Obviously, people really enjoying the app. Yep, the Tunable app is the place to go. Daphnis, yeah. What lip slurs are these? These are, I should throw that in the comments as always. If you go to my website, that's of course why I'm doing this, tobioff.com. That's where you would join the Uber Duber Club. But beyond that, the lip slur that everybody's asking about is on the free download section. And I'll put a link to that. There's some songs there as well that will get you started with the whole listening to vocalists and trying to copy what they're doing. But here is where you will see the lip slur that I just did, and as well as songs. I'll put that here into the class as well. I know you all know about it, but that's where a lot of songs, I put some foray up there that I really enjoy playing. And of course the warm-up, this is my just basic warm-up routine that includes long tones and lip slurs. I do that every day. Moving forward, let's be clear. Start with an agenda. When you're practicing, realize what you're doing. Are you doing a practice session? Are you doing a warm-up session, right? Are you practicing for solo? I love at the beginning of the Schlossberg book, it says these should be looked at in 30-minute intervals. It's basically saying you should choose a few exercises to prepare yourself for professional or advanced practice, right? Let's be clear that quite often people will turn a warm-up routine into a technical practice session. And I'm not trying to say that those things shouldn't exist. I'm trying to say that you need to make sure that they're separate ideals. Like when you're warming up, that's to prepare you for a service or an advanced practice session, right? And frequently a warm-up might happen at a different time of day than the advanced practice session. You warm up for the day, it should take maybe 25 minutes-ish, right? When you pass the 30-minute threshold, you're actually into a practice session, okay? And you're making yourself tired for the rest of the day, which is necessary. Let's be clear. You're going to be tired occasionally from your practice session, but that's because you're trying to accomplish something. A warm-up in particular is to prepare you to do something else, all right? So you shouldn't be like hurting yourself. You shouldn't be challenging yourself to the place where you're going to be fatigued to put your best notes forward, right? So ideally, you're all practicing to be professional, employed trombone players, I hope. And that means that you're going to warm yourself up so that you can do your best notes in front of other people, right? That should be at the beginning of the day. You start the day sort of inspired, like really getting great sounds, great musicianship in your head. So you want to start the day saying, wow. And then you practice trying to copy that as best you can. And then you're on into your professional day. Even if you're a student, you craft your day with this same paradigm intact, you'll be okay. Like what happens when you join the professional musician workforce? You just keep doing what you've been doing. The routine is basically the same. Warm up, get yourself ready for a professional day, and away you go. All right, my friends. Looking one last time at YouTube. Someone mute Gary. Yeah. All right, you guys. If you have any suggestions for future classes, if you have any questions, of course I'm yours. Let me know if you want to cover anything in future warm-ups. I'm absolutely here for you. I want to solve the pandemic with accessibility. We have an opportunity to connect with each other in ways that we haven't before, and especially where we're all sort of eager to play for and with each other. Use me as much as you can, as much as you want. I'm here for as long as I can. All right. I'll talk to you later. I'm gonna sign off now, and hopefully I'll see you soon. Yeah. Thanks for everybody showing up here. This was a lot of fun.